All right, class. First off, as always, good day. So today's lesson is a continuation of the reconstruction. So the last lesson we talked about the beginning parts of it, and now we're the ball's starting to get rolling on it. You're going to notice some things about the president who took over for Lincoln. After he got killed, President Johnson. You're going to see a pattern with this guy, and it's easy to make assumptions on what kind of person he was based off his actions. And um you're probably going to notice, like, this guy is purposely doing this. It seems like he's doing it on purpose, and it kind of is. you know um Again, I said in class, I haven't really read any like biographies about him and stuff like that. um but the thing is, just from everything I know that he's done in history, especially during the Reconstruction time, it kind of seems like your opinion about him could be right. You know, so let's get into that. So we're going to analyze the bills that President Johnson vetoed. We're going to examine whether Congress overstepped their authority. Because remember, the president is not all powerful. Yeah, that's true. The thing is, though, the president does have some rights. The president can do some things under the Constitution, and yet this Congress kind of does something. You know, So you're going to see what that is. And then we're going to create an argument on whether President Johnson deserved to get impeached. So here's your warm up picture. Now, the question is asking you, how is this artist trying to depict them? How are they trying to make him look? So look what he has on, look what he has in his hands and stuff like that. Um, and as some students said in class, look at his body language, his gesture, things like that. Um, you know, what do you think, that artist is trying to say with that too? Okay. So go ahead, write your response, pause the video, okay, because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So February 19th, 1866, the Freedmen Bureau, if you don't remember this from the last lesson, it's a department of our government which is trying to help out the newly freed slaves basically get on their feet. They're giving them clothing, giving them food, helping them with contracts, making sure that their rights aren't violated, and things like that. Okay, because you have to remember, a lot of these newly freed slaves, they didn't have an education. It was illegal for them to have an education. Um, they had nowhere to go. Some of them, all they knew how to do was, work the fields and things like that. You know, so this is where the military is going to try to help them out, things like that. Okay. Now, with this new bill, the military trials were for anyone depriving African Americans of their civil rights. So let's say there was a sheriff in a little town who was stopping African Americans from voting. And he thought, hey, I'm the sheriff of this town. I can do what I want, la, la, la. And they basically told the Freedmen Bureau, hey, there's a sheriff in our town. He won't let us vote. He's physically stopping us, things like that. They would then have a trial on him, basically arrest him, put him on trial, and call witnesses, things like that. And if he's found guilty, they would remove him from his job and things like that. Now, the president, when this bill passed the House of Representatives and the Senate, when it came to him, he basically said, yeah, I don't like this law. I'm vetoing it. And remember, when the president vetoes it, it doesn't mean that the law just all of a sudden just goes away. It's like torn up and thrown in the trash can. No, it goes back to Congress. And they have to get a two-thirds majority in both the House of Representatives and the Senate, meaning they have to get at least for every three people, two people to say yes to it. Okay. And they do. They override him. So now that it's overridden, the president cannot veto the bill again. Now it becomes law. Okay, so the president gets only one veto. If he doesn't get it, if the Congress overwrites him, that's it. Can't do anything about it. Now, another bill was created called the First Reconstruction Act. And basically, what it did is if you look at that map there, it broke up the southern states into five districts. Okay. And a Union general was placed in charge in each district. Now, their job was to make sure that the soldiers there and, their territory, that everything was hunky dory, that they, and this is the quotes they use, protect the rights of persons and property. Now, if you notice, that quote says persons, not African Americans. It wasn't just about protecting African Americans, it was protecting anybody whose rights were being violated and things like that, you know. So, yeah. But the thing is, who were the people being picked on quite a bit in the South and things like that, who were being harassed? Was African Americans. And yes, there were some white people who were being harassed. Those people who supported the Reconstruction, you know, in the South, those white people, because remember, not every single white person in the South was a racist. No, okay, that idea, that notion, it should really be taken out of people's heads. Okay, that every single white person in the South, was racist. No, okay. Now, when this bill comes to the president again, this other new one, he basically says again, I veto it. And again, Congress is like, all right, well, we've done it before. This is now number three times we've done it. Now let's do it again. So they override the president. Okay. So if you take the the bills so far that have been presented to the president, President Johnson, up to this point, there's like four bills already. And already every one of them have been about the freedmen to help African Americans. And he says no to them. So Congress is starting to realize like there's a pattern here going on, you know. So when that pattern was basically realized, Congress felt they couldn't trust him anymore. Even though he's the president of the United States, the guy that was supposed to be like doing Lincoln's work, they're like, yeah, we can't trust this guy. He's not doing anything that Lincoln would have done. Lincoln would have said, yeah, whatever it takes to help these guys get on their feet and help them progress in life. And Johnson's like, no, 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 you know. So what they did is they attacked him, but not physically, but they tried to take away some of his power as president. And one of the first things it did was the Army Appropriations Act. Basically, you have to remember this: the president is the commander in chief of the military, and that includes the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard. I mean, everything. At this point, it's Army, Navy, Marines. Okay, um, and the thing is, they said basically that he had to transmit his orders to the military, meaning the Army commander generals in Washington D.C. had to approve those orders. So if he said, I want you to move your troops from North Carolina and South Carolina to Ohio, okay, these generals would get that order and they could basically say, no, no, we don't agree with that. Again, he's the commander in chief. He can tell the soldiers, you guys go here, you guys move there, you guys do this, you guys do that. He could do that. But because Congress didn't trust him, they put this law into effect. The other big thing that they did was the Tenure of Office Act. Because remember, when Johnson became president, it was the day that Lincoln died. And right away, Congress started, giving him bills to sign and things like that. So he really didn't have much time to, like, okay, I'm going to appoint so and so Secretary of State and put this person Secretary of War, this person Secretary of Education. He didn't have time to do that kind of stuff, you know? So basically, all the people who were around him, the different secretaries, were Lincoln's boys. And so basically, this Tenure of Office Act said that he couldn't fire cabinet members without the Senate approval. Now, the Constitution basically says that the president gets to pick his cabinet. And with that being said, if he hires them, that means he could fire them. But again, because they didn't trust him and they knew that Lincoln's guys knew what Lincoln wanted, they made sure that he couldn't fire them unless the Senate says, yeah, okay, that reason that you want to fire that person, that's legit. Okay, we get that. So, but they had to get the approval first. Um, so then Congress came up with some more bills. Second Reconstruction Act. This basically filled up some loopholes that they found with ensuring that African American males could vote. The Third Reconstruction Act, same thing, closed up some loopholes that some people they saw that people could try to say, "Oh, I'm not gonna let these African Americans vote because of this," whatever it may be, that loophole. So they're closing up those loopholes, but also basically allow the military to use force to remove any state or local official who was trying to stop the Reconstruction process. So, like I told you about that, like the example of a sheriff stopping African Americans from voting. If that same sheriff was like, "You're not going to take me from my office. You have to call the army in." Well, guess what? Now they can, and they could have a shootout, basically. Or if a governor or mayor, says like, no, no, they're trying to stop African Americans from, doing stuff, or they're like not allowing um, things to progress, giving African Americans the right to own property or uh, register to vote, then the military could step in and forcibly remove this governor or mayor or whatever. Yeah, so as they say now, oh, I'm gonna throw some hands. The military is ready to throw hands, and they're now legally able to on citizens. So, yeah, it was big. So both of these bills came to the president, and of course he vetoes it. Says, no, 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 these are horrible laws. I veto it. Congress is like, yeah, yeah, we know this song and dance. We're gonna override you. We're gonna do that. So, okay, fine. You veto it, and they overrode him. So those two become law. Now, there was one guy in the cabinet that Lincoln, appointed, that President Johnson could not stand, and that was Secretary of War Edwin Stanton. Now, remember, the Tenure of Office Act said that the president couldn't fire any of his people unless the Senate said, yeah, it's okay. So he knew that if he told them, I want to fire this guy, they're going to tell him, no, 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 you can't fire him. So he goes, okay, I'll just ask him to quit. So he goes to Stan and tells him, hey, you know what? Thing is, you don't like being here. I don't like you being here. Why don't you just quit? And Stan goes, no, I'm not going to quit. You crazy? No. So the President Johnson goes, how can I get rid of this guy? What could I do? And then it dawns on him, I'll suspend him. Yeah, so he's not really firing him, but he's not keeping him around, so he suspends him. And he replaces him with the hero of the Civil War, which is Ulysses S. Grant. Now, Grant kind of figures this is a temporary job type of thing. And basically, like 4 months go by, and he's like, hey, this is not temporary. And the thing is, you haven't told Congress that you suspended Stanton and put me in charge. He goes, yeah, you need to do that like now. So Johnson basically informs Congress, like, hey, just letting you guys know, I suspended Stanton, and Grant's taking his spot. And yeah, the suspension happened 4 months ago. So Congress is kind of like, well, what the heck? What? So they're just shocked. And the next month, Grant has enough, and he basically tells Johnson, I'm quitting. I'm done. I can't be Secretary of War anymore. And he basically tells Stanton, you could have your job back. Yeah, I'm done. I'm leaving. Now, President Johnson is just like, oh my God, not the Stanton guy again. And now he's basically out of options. So what he does is he goes ahead and says, you know what? I'm the president. What are they going to do to me if I fire him? So he fires Stanton. And basically, 3 days later, the House of Representatives filed charges of impeachment. Because remember, he violated the Office of Tenure Act. So he basically broke the law. And that's what impeachment trials are. When the president uh, breaks the law, the House of Representatives filed charges of impeachment. Now, just because the charges are filed doesn't mean that the president is kicked out. Okay, that's where the second half comes in, where the Senate then hears the trial and basically decide, do these charges stick? Is there some legitimacy to these charges? And if it's yes, they say, yeah, there's these charges stick. Then the president is fully impeached and is removed from office. Okay. If they say no, then the president basically returns to his job. Okay. Also, you need to remember, not only can a president get impeached, but members of Congress and federal judges can be impeached. Okay. So Johnson has this trial thing and it falls one vote short. One senator said no. Of all of them that said no, all it took was one that said no to make it so where the charges didn't stick. Now Johnson's feeling like Mr. Chingon. He's feeling good. Like, heck yeah, look at, they try to get rid of me. They can't get rid of me. Ha! And then it's the election year. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna run for president again. And the Republican Party basically looks at him going, okay, but you're not running as a Republican. And he's like, whoa, 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 why not? I'm a Republican. And they're like, no, no, you are not. You do not believe in the things that Lincoln believed in. Lincoln was a Republican. If you want to run for president, you better join that other political party. So he kind of looks at them and they're like, we don't want you. So neither political party really wants him to run for president. That's kind of sad if you really think about it, where he's such a bad president, both political parties don't want him. So, yeah. All right. So here is my question to you. Um, let's say the president, gets assassinated, to die in office, or whatever the case may be, and the vice president now becomes president, right? So my question to you is this: should that vice president who's becoming president, should they be allowed to bring in their own people? Um, get a new Secretary of War, Secretary of State, Secretary of Education, Secretary of Interior, things like that, or should they have to keep the same people that the former president had? The person that wanted them to run for, be their vice president, should they have to keep that person's staff around? Or should the person who's going to be president now be allowed to pick their own people? What do you think? Okay. So the writing prompts on the bottom. So if you need help starting up the sentence, you know how to start it, that should help you out. Okay. I'd strongly suggest that you use it, but if you don't, you feel you can write a complete sentence on yourself by yourself, go for it. Okay, but please don't start with yes, because don't that's not a complete sentence. Okay. So with that being said, guys, that's it for this lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Okay. So with that being said, you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. All right.